WTA officials raid the practice area, and what they found about Alex Eala stunned everyone. It was supposed to be a quiet training morning, until the officials arrived unannounced. Whispers spread like wildfire. Was this a random inspection or something far more serious? Coaches froze. Players stopped mid-drill. Cameras turned away. And when the report leaked hours later, it sent the entire tennis world into chaos. Because what they uncovered changed everything we thought we knew about Eala. It was supposed to be just another morning at the WTA training complex in Singapore. Humid air, steady rhythm of tennis balls echoing across courts, and the faint smell of hard work and focus. But on court 7, something felt different. Alex Eala was there, silent, focused, and relentless. Her footwork sharper than usual, her expression unreadable. For weeks, whispers had followed her around the tour, about her new training methods, her sudden surge in stamina, and the strange technology seen strapped to her wrist and racket handle. Coaches called it innovation. Rivals called it obsession. And officials? Well, they were starting to ask questions. Eala had been one of the most promising young talents on the WTA circuit. Her discipline was legendary, her humility admired. But behind that calm exterior was a storm brewing, unseen but slowly taking form. Her recent losses had cut deep. Tight matches slipping away, nerves at crucial points, the haunting silence after every defeat. Some say she became different after that last loss in Guangzhou, quieter, more secretive and strangely protective of her training sessions. She would practice late, long after others had left, her coach keeping even her hitting partners at a distance. The usual openness of tour camaraderie had vanished. Then came the equipment. Small sensors on her wristband, a modified racket grip with blinking LEDs, and a tablet she never let anyone touch. Other players laughed it off as another one of those high-tech experiments. But deep down, curiosity turned to suspicion. "She's doing something new," one player whispered to another. "Something that's not normal." The tension was subtle but undeniable. Her court was quieter, the glances longer, and even the sound of her serves carried an edge. Eala didn't speak much these days, but her game spoke for her. Ruthless precision, unrelenting pace, no emotion. It was as if she was running from something, or toward something no one else could see. And then there was that morning. A day that began like any other, and ended in complete chaos. Hours before the first raid, a low buzz had spread among staff. Officials from the WTA integrity and compliance team had landed early, unannounced. No cameras, no press. Just quiet coordination, a few phone calls, and a list of names. At the very top of that list, Alex Eala, meanwhile, on court, she was mid-practice rally, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. Her coach checked his phone repeatedly, tension etched on his face. Something wasn't right, and everyone could feel it. "She's working too hard," one journalist had said the night before, almost like she's hiding behind the grind. In that moment, as the sun hit the glass walls of the training center, the world was still in balance. Eala's shots echoed like thunder, her breath sharp, her focus absolute. The kind of focus that blinds you to what's coming next, because within minutes, everything would change. Officials were already assembling near the entryway. Their badges glinted in the light, their voices low, their purpose clear. Players on nearby courts exchanged confused glances. Something was happening. Something no one expected. By the time Eala looked up and saw the line of suits walking toward her, the sound of tennis balls stopped across all courts. Silence spread like a wave. Every player turned. Every camera paused. Alex Eala lowered her racket, confusion on her face. Her coach whispered something, too faint to hear. And then, the lead official stepped forward, clipboard in hand, and spoke 6 words that would ripple through the sport for months. "We need to inspect your area." The air froze. And that's when everything, her confidence, her privacy, her reputation, began to unravel. The tension on Court 7 was unlike anything the WTA had seen before. The moment those 6 words were spoken, "We need to inspect your area," the energy around Alex Eala shifted from focus to disbelief. Spectators, staff, and even nearby players froze. This wasn't a random check. It was a raid, unannounced, precise, and clearly targeted. Eala stood motionless for a moment, racket still in her hand. Her mind raced. Inspect? For what? She finally asked, her voice steady but uncertain. The officials exchanged quick glances before one of them stepped forward, producing a sealed envelope stamped with the WTA Integrity Division's insignia. It was official. The order had come from the top. Within seconds, the calm rhythm of practice collapsed into confusion. Her coach tried to intervene, asking for clarification, but was quickly pulled aside by one of the senior officers. The others began scanning the perimeter, benches, lockers, and training equipment. Every movement was being watched, every glance recorded. The sound of camera shutters clicked in the distance. A few journalists had managed to slip inside the complex, sensing a story before anyone else even knew what was happening. Rumors spread through the building like wildfire. "They're searching Eala's court," someone whispered. Something serious must have happened. As the search continued, the once familiar practice area turned into a scene of silent tension. Eala's racket bag was opened carefully. Her towels, grips, and recovery bands were removed and lined up. The lead official signaled to another to check the tech, the wrist sensors, the racket handle attachment, the small tablet always seen beside her bench. That's when the murmurs grew louder. Everyone had seen those devices before, tiny, sleek, customized for her training. But nobody knew what they actually did. One of the officials connected the tablet to a monitoring device. The screen flickered to life, revealing a series of coded files and encrypted data logs. The lead inspector's expression hardened. "We'll need to confiscate this," he said firmly, sealing the tablet in an evidence pouch. The message was clear. This wasn't about her gear. This was about what was inside it. Eala's coach tried to calm the situation. "It's all just training data," he insisted. "Heart rate, timing, recovery, all standard stuff." But the officials weren't convinced. They checked every piece of tech, scanning for data traces and connections. Then one of them found a small external chip attached behind her racket strings, so small it could easily go unnoticed. A gasp broke through the crowd. "What is that?" a reporter blurted out. Eala looked just as shocked. That's not mine," she said quietly, stepping closer. But the officials didn't pause. The chip was carefully removed and sealed. The practice area that once represented her passion and peace now felt like a crime scene. As the officials continued, the whispers around the facility turned into speculation and judgment. Is it some kind of signal device? Maybe it's used for match predictions or illegal coaching data. No way. She's too disciplined for that. But the damage was done. The image of officials bagging her belongings had already gone viral on social media. Within minutes, Eala Raid was trending worldwide. Fans demanded answers. Others defended her fiercely, calling it a misunderstanding, a witch hunt. Meanwhile, Eala sat quietly on the bench, head down, eyes distant. The officials had finished collecting evidence, but they left behind something heavier than suspicion: doubt. As they exited, the lead inspector handed her coach a final notice. "You'll receive a full report within 24 hours, he said curtly. "Until then, all equipment remains in custody." The gates closed behind them, and silence filled the court again. But it wasn't peaceful anymore. It was the silence that follows after something breaks: trust, confidence, and reputation. Eala looked around. The court she knew so well now felt foreign. Every sound seemed amplified: the squeak of her shoes, the faint hum of the air, the echo of her own breath. For the first time in her career, she wasn't fighting an opponent across the net. She was fighting shadows, rumors, and the weight of the unknown. And deep down, she knew one thing with certainty. Whatever they found in that data, it was going to follow her far beyond this court, because the raid was just the beginning. The real battle, for her name, her truth, and her future, was only getting started. 24 hours later, the whispers turned into headlines. Every tennis page, every sports blog, every trending feed carried the same question. What did they find in Alex Eala's practice data? For a while there was silence, a calculated silence. Neither the WTA nor Eala's camp released a statement. But silence only fuels curiosity, and curiosity breeds chaos. Soon leaks began surfacing online. A file, supposedly from an anonymous insider, began circulating across forums and private groups. Its contents, if true, were explosive. Inside the confiscated tablet, investigators allegedly found encrypted recordings, not just of Eala's matches or practices, but of her opponents. Data logs suggested real-time tracking of players' movement patterns, serve placement frequencies, and fatigue indicators, metrics usually unavailable to anyone outside of official analytics teams. According to early reports, the system could predict tendencies, where a player would serve, when they'd go for a drop shot, how their accuracy dipped under pressure. To some, it sounded like advanced training tech. To others, it sounded like espionage, and that's where the controversy ignited. Sports journalists began connecting dots that weren't meant to be connected. One outlet published an article titled, "Eala's Secret Edge? How a Young Star Might Have Crossed the Line." Another framed it even more dramatically. "Digital doping in tennis, the hidden scandal nobody saw coming. Within hours, hashtags multiplied. Eala scandal. Digital edge. Your fair play under fire." Her fans were heartbroken. Her critics, relentless. One fan comment read, "If it's true, she didn't cheat with drugs. She cheated with data." Another countered, "This is a witch hunt. Every athlete uses analytics. Why target Eala?" But the most damaging blow came when a segment of the leaked file showed private text exchanges between Eala's coach and a third-party analytics developer. The messages mentioned a custom algorithm built to exploit opponent rhythm patterns. The context wasn't clear, but in the court of public opinion, context rarely matters. The reaction was immediate and merciless. Sponsors froze their partnerships. Analysts debated ethics on live panels. Former pros like Marion Bartoli and Jelena Jankovic were quoted saying, "If it's true, it sets a dangerous precedent." The WTA's official response was brief but ominous. "We are aware of recent reports regarding unauthorized data collection by a registered player. The matter is under review. We will take all appropriate actions to ensure competitive integrity." Those words, unauthorized data collection, were enough to light the fuse. The tennis world had seen doping, match fixing, and temper outbursts. But this was new. This was modern, digital, invisible. Meanwhile, inside her temporary apartment, Alex Eala sat alone, scrolling through the storm she couldn't stop. She read every insult, every defense, every theory. Her phone vibrated endlessly, calls from her family, her lawyer, her coach. But she barely heard them. In a leaked audio clip, allegedly from that night, her trembling voice could be heard saying, "I never meant to hurt anyone. I just wanted to be better." That single sentence, whether real or fake, became the emotional core of the scandal. People didn't know if she was guilty, but they knew she was human. And that made the story even more tragic. As more details emerged, the lines blurred. Some reports hinted that the software she used was meant for personal performance tracking, not opponent spying, but was misconfigured to pull broader data. Others suggested it was sabotage, that someone inside the analytics firm tampered with the files to frame her. Nobody knew the full truth, but everyone had an opinion. By the end of that week, the WTA confirmed a disciplinary hearing was imminent. Eala was instructed to appear before the board, and until then, all her tournament entries were suspended. The practice area raid was no longer just an incident. It had become a global scandal, a story about technology, ambition, and the thin line between innovation and integrity. And as the headlines screamed louder, one chilling question echoed across the tennis world. Was Alex Eala a pioneer? Or a cheat ahead of her time? Because whatever the truth was, it was about to change everything. The storm that followed was unlike anything the tennis world had seen in years. In the digital age, news travels fast, but outrage travels faster. Within hours of the leaked files hitting social media, Alex Eala's name was everywhere, in headlines, hashtags, and hashtags turned hashtags again. The words data theft, unauthorized analytics, and digital cheating became trending topics in 20 countries. Sports talk shows ran heated debates. Commentators who once praised her for her discipline were now questioning her ethics. Even neutral analysts couldn't resist taking sides. Technology has gone too far, one commentator argued on live TV. If this is true, it's not just Eala, it's the sport that's broken. She's a scapegoat, countered another. They all use tech, but she's the one getting punished for being ahead of the curve. The lines between truth and speculation blurred completely. Every photo of her, every interview clip from the past was dissected for signs of guilt. Her silence, once a symbol of focus, was now seen as proof of hiding something. Eala's sponsors began pulling back. Her biggest apparel partner suspended their contract pending investigation. A sports drink company deleted her image from their campaign overnight. Even the academy where she trained issued a statement distancing themselves from the incident. In the court of public opinion, she was already guilty. But it wasn't just the media. It was her peers. Other players were divided, some sympathetic, others quietly judgmental. A top 10 player tweeted, "Integrity is everything. If you lose that, no victory matters." Another replied with a cryptic counter, "Innovation isn't crime. Fear shouldn't stop progress." The locker room was split in two, those who believed she crossed the line, and those who believed she'd simply been caught in a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, fans were in turmoil. Supporters from the Philippines flooded her pages with messages of love and defense. Others flooded the comments with accusations. The online war had begun, and it was brutal. One viral post read, "She's 19. She doesn't need punishment. She needs protection." Another colder one said, "No excuses. Rules are rules. Cheating is cheating." In the midst of it all, Eala vanished from public view. Her social accounts went silent. Her phone switched off. The only person seen entering her apartment was her coach, his face drawn and heavy. According to insiders, she spent days indoors, reviewing the files herself, trying to understand how something meant to help her had turned into a weapon against her. Every headline chipped away at her confidence. Every comment reminded her that reputation, once stained, rarely washes clean. Then came the interview that changed the tone of the entire saga. During a live broadcast on international sports media, former WTA player Daniela Hantuchova broke down while talking about Eala. "She's young, she's under pressure, and she's in a system that demands perfection. We've all pushed limits. Maybe she pushed too far. But we created this obsession with numbers, stats, and control." Her words struck a chord. For the first time, the conversation shifted. From what she did to why she did it. Behind the scandal was a deeper truth, the unbearable pressure of perfection, the endless chase to stay relevant, the mental toll of living under constant judgment. Eala wasn't just a name on a report, she was a reflection of a sport that had begun to lose its soul. Still, the WTA wasn't backing down. They announced an official disciplinary hearing scheduled for the following week, a closed-door session that would decide her fate. Her camp released a short, cryptic statement. Alex Eala will cooperate fully with the investigation. She maintains her innocence and looks forward to sharing her truth. But by then, truth had become a fragile concept. Was it what the files showed, what the fans believed, or what she felt in her heart? As the day of the hearing approached, the tennis world held its breath. Cameras waited outside the hotel where the meeting would take place. Reporters camped out through the night. Because everyone knew, this wasn't just about Alex Eala anymore. It was about the future of fairness in tennis. And whichever way, the decision went, It would leave a mark the sport would never forget. The morning of the hearing felt colder than usual, not by temperature, but by tension. Outside the WTA headquarters in Geneva, dozens of cameras lined the marble steps. Reporters murmured in anticipation. Fans waved banners reading, "Let her speak," and "Fair play for Eala." For days, the tennis world had only heard speculation. Today, they would hear her voice. Alex Eala stepped out of a black sedan, her head held high but her eyes tired. The kind of tired that no sleep can fix. The constant flashes of cameras illuminated her face like lightning. Every step she took toward that door carried the weight of a career, a country, and a truth she was finally ready to share. Inside, the room was silent. A long table. 3 officials from the WTA Integrity Board, 2 legal advisors. Her coach sitting beside her, visibly nervous. The file, the infamous tablet and the sealed evidence pouch, sat in the middle like a ticking bomb. The lead official began with a calm voice. "Ms. Eala, do you understand the allegations brought before you?" She nodded. "Yes, but I also understand the truth." The room leaned in. Eala took a breath, her voice steady but emotional. That data wasn't for spying. It wasn't for advantage. It was for survival. She went on to explain what few had known. The so-called encrypted tracking system wasn't a competitive weapon. It was an experimental program designed by her performance team to monitor her stress and fatigue levels. After her repeated anxiety episodes during matches earlier that season, her team had begun collecting physiological data, heart rate, grip tension, oxygen flow, in real time, trying to find out why she was breaking down under pressure. "It was about controlling my nerves, not my opponents," she said softly. "Every point, every rally, my body would betray me. I wasn't trying to outsmart anyone. I was trying to keep myself together." The board exchanged looks, clearly surprised. Her coach added context. The external chip attached to her racket had been part of a sensor prototype from a biotech sponsor, meant to measure micro-tremors in her hand. It had never been approved for competition use, but they had tested it privately during practice. A technical violation, not a moral one. The hearing room grew quiet. For the first time, the story felt human again, yet the WTA's questions were sharp. "Why encrypt the data?" Her coach answered immediately. "Because it included medical readings, personal information we didn't want shared." Piece by piece, the narrative that had consumed the world began to shift. The dark story of digital doping was starting to look more like a misunderstood experiment, the byproduct of a system that values performance over peace. And then came the twist. One of the investigators revealed that the original data leak, the one that went viral, hadn't come from WTA servers at all. It had been uploaded from an external IP address traced to a rival data analytics firm, a company with sponsorship ties to another top WTA player. Gasps filled the room. "A possible setup." Eala's lawyer leaned forward. "So you're saying someone outside the WTA had access to this data before it was confiscated?" The investigator hesitated. "We're still verifying," he said carefully. But the implication was clear. The leak wasn't an accident. Someone wanted this chaos. Someone wanted Eala destroyed. For a moment, she sat still, her eyes closed. Relief, sadness, and exhaustion collided inside her. The truth was finally out, but the damage was already done. After hours of deliberation, the WTA released its conclusion. No evidence of match manipulation or opponent data theft has been found. Alex Eala is cleared of all intentional wrongdoing. However, she has issued a formal warning for using unapproved technology during practice. Outside, the headlines changed instantly. Eala cleared. Misunderstood genius. From scandal to survival. That night, she broke her silence on social media with a single message. The truth took time, but it was worth it. "I've learned that even in silence, integrity speaks loudest." It was poetic, painful, and powerful. But even as she was cleared, one question lingered in every fan's mind. If the data leak wasn't her fault, who planted it? The truth may have saved her career, but the mystery had only deepened. The storm had passed, but the echoes remained. Weeks after the WTA hearing, Alex Eala finally returned to the court. No cameras this time. No microphones. Just the rhythmic sound of her breath, the bounce of a single tennis ball, and the faint sting of memory. The same practice court that had once been her downfall was now her sanctuary again. The same lines, the same routines, but everything felt different. The air was heavier. Every move carried the weight of a reputation rebuilt from ashes. The headlines had cooled down, but the whispers hadn't. Some still doubted her innocence. Others called her a symbol of resilience. For Eala, both labels felt like cages, too small to capture who she really was. She didn't want to be a scandal or a survivor. She just wanted to play. Her return match was set in Madrid, a small event compared to the chaos that had consumed her life. The crowd was respectful but quiet, unsure how to react. Cameras zoomed in as she walked to her baseline, head high, shoulders squared. You could feel the tremor in the air, that mix of sympathy, skepticism, and hope. When she hit her first serve, it wasn't just a serve. It was a statement. A reminder that you can strip away titles, sponsors, and headlines. But not purpose. And then something remarkable happened. She played freely. No overthinking. No hesitation. Every swing carried release. Not rage, not fear, just freedom. For the first time in months, she looked like herself again. By the end of the match, the crowd stood in applause, not because she won, but because she fought. The same people who once doubted her now felt something else: empathy. After the match, she faced the press. The room was packed, every reporter ready to probe. But she smiled, not to charm, but to reclaim her voice. "What happened to me wasn't just about data or rules," she began. "It was about misunderstanding, about how fear can twist innovation into accusation. But I'm not angry. I've learned that the hardest battles aren't against opponents. They're against perception." Her words were calm yet powerful. They spread across platforms like wildfire, quoted, reposted, praised. Even some of her critics softened. A month later, the WTA announced a new initiative for ethical tech in training. Guidelines ensuring that no athlete would ever face the same ambiguity again. The statement didn't mention her name, but everyone knew who had inspired it. The raid that once nearly destroyed her had sparked reform. Eala's story became more than controversy. It became conversation. A story about ambition colliding with technology, and about a sport learning to grow with it. Her reputation slowly healed, not because people forgot the scandal, but because she showed them something stronger than proof: perseverance. And in quiet moments, late at night, when she'd scroll through the headlines of her past, she no longer felt anger, just clarity. She understood now. The same system that questioned her integrity also built her resilience. The same chaos that tried to silence her gave her a louder purpose. Her coach once told her, "Pressure reveals who you really are." Now she knew what that meant. As the camera of public opinion turned elsewhere, Eala stayed on the court, still practicing, still believing, still rising. Because in tennis, as in life, the game doesn't end when you fall. It ends when you stop showing up. And Alex Eala was not done showing up. So as the lights fade and the noise of scandal dies down, one question remains: was this just a misunderstanding? Or the moment that defined her forever? In a world where technology meets ambition, Alex Eala's story reminds us that even the smallest innovation can spark the biggest controversies. But through every trial, one truth remains: resilience is louder than rumor. If you believe in comeback stories, hit subscribe, because this was just the beginning.